York, Harlem. A brilliant young con artist steals money from Bumpy Johnson, but instead of being punished, he is offered a job and gradually becomes an important part of Bumpy's financial system. However, Adrian is not as simple as many believed. What kind of trap is this talented swindler drawing Bumpy's entire organization into? Subscribe to the channel now so you don't lose us. Here, we tell the legends of Harlem's criminal streets. Make yourself a cup of tea. We're beginning. 642 New York wakes in layers. First the trucks, then the kitchens, then the offices where men decide what other men are worth. Harlem wakes differently. Metal shutters rise, coffee boils. Numbers begin moving through rooms without signs. A dollar earned in daylight has a name. A dollar earned before sunrise has an owner. Bumpy Johnson understands the difference. He has spent years building a system where money never travels alone. A hand carries it. Another hand watches. A third hand remembers. Trust is useful. Memory is safer. Time isn't numbers. It's alignment. When every man arrives where he should, money moves quietly. When one arrives late, the entire street begins to listen. 704. 20 blocks south, a young man sits in a diner near Madison Avenue. He is 22, maybe 23. Age changes depending on the suit. Today he looks older, gray jacket, narrow tie, dark leather briefcase resting beside his shoes. He drinks coffee without sugar, not because he likes it, because the man he is pretending to be would drink it that way. The waitress calls him sir. He thanks her without looking familiar. That matters. Being remembered is expensive. He watches the entrance of a private accounting firm across the street. Not the building, the people. Buildings keep schedules. People keep weaknesses. At 7:08, the night guard leaves. At 7:11, the receptionist arrives. At 7:16, she lights her first cigarette. Routine is a lock that believes it is a wall. 7:28. The young man opens a notebook. No names, only details. Brown coat, left-handed, key ring on belt, calls wife at 9, leaves rear door open during deliveries. He has watched the firm for 12 mornings. Rain, cold, traffic, always from a different table. Observation becomes suspicious only when it looks patient. He never looks patient. He reads newspapers, folds napkins, leaves small tips. People notice generosity. They rarely notice silence. The accounting firm handles payroll for 6 construction companies. One of them exists only on paper. Another belongs to a city councilman's brother. The third sends cash through Harlem every Friday. The young man does not know who owns that money. Not yet. A thief who moves too early steals cash. A thief who waits steals the system. 7:53. His first name this month is Adrian Vale. That is not the name on his birth certificate. The birth certificate may not exist. In one office, he is Adrian. In another, Mr. Caldwell. To a warehouse manager in Queens, he is Thomas Pierce from the Insurance Board. To a clerk in Brooklyn, he is a state compliance examiner. Titles are cheaper than uniforms. They also travel better. A badge invites inspection. A title invites obedience. He has learned that most men do not fear authority. They fear appearing ignorant in front of it. So Adrian uses long words. Procedural deficiency. Temporary liability. Interdepartmental review. Nobody asks what they mean. People are ashamed to admit confusion. Shame opens more doors than force. 8:15. Across town, Bumpy eats breakfast in the back room of a restaurant that does not serve breakfast. 1 boiled egg, toast, coffee, no newspaper. News reaches him before ink dries. A man named Vernon Clay stands near the door. 38. Broad shoulders. Quiet hands. Vernon has worked for Bumpy for 6 years. He does not interrupt. That is why he is still in the room. At the table sits Edwin Knox, Bumpy's chief bookkeeper. Thin, exact, always dressed as if attending court. Edwin places 3 ledgers on the table. No speeches, no apologies. Numbers do not need introductions. Bumpy opens the first ledger. Collections. The second. Loans. The third. Sports books. Money is never just money. It is pressure measured in paper. 839. Edwin points to a narrow column. Uptown route is clean. Bumpy turns the page. Clean doesn't mean safe. Edwin waits. Bumpy studies the figures. 5 neighborhoods, 9 collectors, 4 transfer points. Every route different. Every amount divided before movement. No man knows the full total. That is intentional. Knowledge creates ambition. Partial knowledge creates employment. Bumpy closes the book. Change Friday. Edwin looks up. The route. The timing. Problem? No. Bumpy takes a slow drink of coffee. Problems arrive after patterns. Edwin nods. He understands. Routine makes business efficient. Efficiency makes it visible. A visible system is only a map someone has not learned to read yet. 902. Adrian enters an insurance office on 42nd Street. He does not rush. Rushing belongs to messengers and guilty men. He carries a folder stamped with the name of a State Department. The department exists. The division does not. That distinction has paid his rent for 8 months. The receptionist asks whether he has an appointment. Adrian looks mildly surprised. Not offended. Offense creates resistance. Surprise creates panic. I was told your director had been informed. She checks the calendar. Nothing. Adrian lowers his voice. I can return with the municipal investigators. He begins closing the folder. The receptionist stops him. People fear what leaves more than what enters. 3 minutes later, Adrian is inside. No weapon, no threat, just the suggestion that someone above them already knows something they do not. 927. The director is named Harold Vane, 54, sweating before Adrian sits down. That tells Adrian everything. Innocent men ask questions. Guilty men offer coffee. Harold offers coffee. Adrian declines. He places 2 blank forms on the desk. Then he says nothing. Silence is useful when the other man has secrets. Harold begins explaining claims Adrian never mentioned. A fire in Queens, a warehouse in Newark, a settlement delayed without documentation. Adrian listens, nods once, writes nothing. Writing makes people defensive. Listening makes them confess. After 11 minutes, Harold opens a cabinet and removes an envelope. Supporting materials. Cash inside. $800. Adrian does not touch it. Not yet. A bribe accepted too quickly looks like a bribe. A bribe accepted reluctantly looks like procedure. 951. Adrian finally slides the envelope into his folder. He leaves Harold with 3 instructions. Resubmit the claim. Replace 2 signatures. Wait 72 hours. None of it matters. The instructions are camouflage. A successful lie needs work attached to it. People trust inconvenience. It feels official. Adrian exits through the lobby. The receptionist smiles nervously. He gives her a business card. The telephone number connects to an answering service in Jersey City. The woman there has never met him. She receives $5 a week to say 1 sentence. Mr. Vale is currently in the field. Absence becomes credibility when someone answers for it. By noon, Harold Vane will believe the meeting saved his company. By evening, he will burn the paperwork himself. The best victims clean the crime scene for you. 10:13. Adrian does not celebrate. Celebration belongs to amateurs. He walks 6 blocks, changes his tie in a department store washroom, removes the pocket square, puts on glasses with clear lenses. Now he is younger, nervous, respectful. He leaves the briefcase in a rented locker and carries a canvas document bag instead. Identity is not the face. It is posture, the angle of the shoulders, the speed of the eyes. Authority looks at people. Service looks past them. When Adrian steps back onto the sidewalk, Mr. Vale is gone. In his place is a junior legal courier named Peter Doyle. Peter apologizes when bumped. Peter checks addresses twice. Peter never meets anyone's eyes. Nobody suspects a man who looks as if he expects to be blamed. 10:36. Peter Doyle enters a law office near City Hall. He carries a sealed packet. Inside are copied property records and a forged notice regarding a disputed building in Brooklyn. The lawyer receiving him is impatient. Impatience is another kind of blindness. Peter explains that the originals must be verified before 4 o'clock. The lawyer curses the city. That is useful. People trust a lie more when it confirms something they already hate. Peter is given access to an archive room. 10 minutes. No supervision. He does not steal contracts. Contracts are noticed. He photographs signatures, corporate seals, letterhead, the shape of initials. Information weighs nothing. That makes it easier to carry. Before leaving, Peter deliberately drops one harmless page. The secretary finds it, calls after him. He thanks her twice. A small mistake makes a perfect performance believable. 11:01. At a pay telephone 3 blocks away, Adrian calls a printing shop in the Bronx. He speaks as an attorney, then as a client, then as himself. 3 voices, 1 conversation. The printer agrees to prepare 6 sets of corporate stationery by Thursday. Cash payment, no questions. Questions cost extra. Adrian gives a false address and a real deadline. He hangs up. A police car passes. He does not turn. Fear moves the head before the body. He has trained himself against that. Most criminals are caught by reflex. The nervous glance, the sudden step, the hand touching a pocket. Adrian's gift is not courage. It is rehearsal. He has already imagined the police car, already imagined the siren, already imagined the hand on his shoulder. A surprise practiced often enough becomes a scene. 11:24. Bumpy leaves the restaurant through the kitchen. No front door. Front doors are for men who want to be seen arriving. Outside waits a black sedan. Vernon opens the rear door. Bumpy stops before entering. Across the street, a delivery boy unloads bread. A woman argues with a landlord. 2 men pretend not to watch. Harlem is never empty. It is only honest about being observed. Bumpy looks at Vernon. The one near the barber shop. Vernon does not turn his head. Blue hat? New shoes. Vernon understands. Shoes reveal purpose. Working men wear them down. Police polish them. Men waiting for trouble keep them clean. The sedan pulls away. The man in the blue hat never knows he was noticed. Being unseen is difficult. Believing you are unseen is easy. 11:47. The car stops outside a dry cleaning business on Lenox Avenue. The front is legitimate. The back is useful. Bumpy enters through a side corridor. Inside, 2 collectors are waiting with canvas bags. One older, one young. The younger man keeps wetting his lips. Bumpy notices. Nervousness is not guilt, but guilt often borrows it. Edwin begins counting. Stacks arranged by route. Bills facing the same direction. No talking. Money deserves quiet. The younger collector watches Edwin's hands too closely. Bumpy watches the collector. Power is not staring at the thing everyone fears. Power is noticing who is staring. The count matches. Exactly. The young man exhales. Too soon. Bumpy says nothing. Relief can be more revealing than panic. 12:12. After the collectors leave, Vernon closes the door. You think he skimmed? Bumpy looks at the empty chair. No. Then what? He expected us to think he did. Vernon frowns. Bumpy adjusts one stack of bills. A scared man watches the door. He taps the tabletop. He watched the count. Why? Someone asked him about it. Vernon's face hardens. Who? Bumpy does not answer. Questions create movement. Movement creates tracks. He tells Vernon to keep the collector working. Same route, same hours. No warning. You do not close a window because someone looked through it. You darken the room. Then you wait to see who returns. 12:36. Adrian eats lunch in a crowded cafeteria near Grand Central. Roast beef. Water. No dessert. He sits beside traveling salesmen and listens. Listening is cheaper than research. One salesman complains about delayed freight. Another mentions a warehouse inspection. A third explains how payroll envelopes are transferred between offices. Men reveal systems when they think they are complaining about inconvenience. Adrian writes nothing. Memory attracts less attention than notebooks. He remembers sequences, names by rhythm, numbers by position. A red door, 3 steps, 2 locks, Friday afternoon. A city is not too large to understand. It is only too loud. Remove the noise and every institution becomes a hallway. Every hallway has one person who holds the wrong key for the right reason. 1300. His next target is not a bank. Banks expect thieves. He chooses a freight brokerage on West 27th Street. The company arranges shipments for manufacturers too small to own trucks. Paper decides where merchandise goes. Paper decides who signs. Paper decides when questions begin. Adrian has studied their forms for 3 weeks. Today he arrives as Martin Bell, temporary representative of a textile importer. His coat is cheaper, his accent flatter. He carries real samples bought from a wholesaler. Details protect the center of a lie. Martin Bell does not ask for money. He asks to correct an address. Small requests pass through doors. Large requests never reach. The clerk changes the destination of a shipment worth $12,000. One line, one stamp, no raised voice. A truck will disappear tomorrow because a pencil moved today. 1325. Adrian does not intend to keep the textiles. Selling stolen goods creates partners. Partners create witnesses. Instead, the truck will arrive at a temporary warehouse rented under another name. The shipment will remain untouched for 6 hours. Then a second company will discover the error. The importer will pay a recovery fee. Nothing stolen, nothing missing, only money charged for solving a problem Adrian created. Clean crime is often administration with bad intentions. He will earn $1,800. The trucking company will blame the clerk. The clerk will blame the paperwork. The importer will blame the city. Nobody will blame a man who never appears twice. The safest position in an argument is the person both sides assume belongs to the other. 1349 police detectives in Midtown have 3 open complaints. A false inspector, a missing freight representative, a legal courier who does not exist. The descriptions do not match. One suspect is 30, another is 25. One has glasses, one does not. One speaks formally, another stammers. Detective Samuel Creel spreads the reports across his desk. He is 46 and tired of clever criminals. Clever criminals create paperwork. Violent criminals create witnesses. Paperwork lasts longer. Creel notices one similarity. No victim called the police immediately. Each waited. 6 hours. 1 day. 3 days. Embarrassment delayed every report. Creel circles the times. The man is not only choosing weak systems, he is choosing victims who will protect him with silence. That is intelligence. Intelligence becomes dangerous when it learns patience. 1414. Adrian notices Creel before Creel notices Adrian, not personally, through the newspapers, a short article. City investigates impersonation scheme. No photograph, few details, but the wording changes. Authorities now believe the incidents may be connected. Connection is the beginning of pursuit. Adrian cuts out the article, places it inside a folder marked Errors, not trophies, lessons. The first rule of surviving success is refusing to admire it. Admiration makes men repeat themselves. Repetition becomes identity. Identity becomes a door police can knock on. Adrian cancels 2 prepared schemes that afternoon. 4 weeks of work, gone. A greedy man sees wasted effort. A living man sees distance. 1439 Bumpy meets with a restaurant owner named Louis Gant. Louis owes money, not much, enough to lie. They sit in the empty dining room between lunch and dinner. Chairs upside down, sunlight cutting through blinds. Louis explains poor business, broken freezer, supplier trouble, family illness. Excuses always arrive in groups. Truth rarely needs company. Bumpy lets him speak. Louis grows more confident with every uninterrupted sentence. That is another law. People mistake silence for belief. When Louis finishes, Bumpy places a receipt on the table. Louis recognizes it. A payment to a bookmaker downtown. 3 nights ago. Money for gambling, not suppliers. Bumpy speaks softly. You borrowed from me to lie to me. Louis begins apologizing. Bumpy raises one finger. Not a threat. A stop. 1503. Bumpy does not take the restaurant. That would create work. He changes the debt. Louis will repay through information. Who visits? Who asks questions? Who watches the back entrance? Information has no fixed value. That is why powerful men prefer it. Louis agrees too quickly. Bumpy stands. At the door, he pauses. Do not bring me rumors. Louis nods. What should I bring? Patterns. Bumpy leaves. A rumor is a frightened man talking. A pattern is a patient man working. Somewhere in New York, someone has begun asking about collection routes. Not directly. Never names. Just timing. Just habits. Just which businesses close early on Fridays. Small questions. Small enough to be ignored. Bumpy does not ignore small things. Large things announce themselves. Small things choose where to enter. 1527. Adrian spends the afternoon inside the Public Records Building. He is not disguised. That is the disguise. Plain coat. Plain shirt. No briefcase. He requests corporate filings for laundry companies, restaurants, and construction firms in Harlem. All public. All boring. Boring information is the foundation of private power. He maps directors, addresses, shared attorneys, repeated telephone numbers. One name appears across unrelated businesses, not Bumpy Johnson. That name would be too obvious. The repeated name belongs to an accountant named Edwin Knox. Adrian writes it once, then closes the file. A system hides its owner behind respectable men. Accountants, lawyers, property managers. Violence guards the street. Respectability guards the money. Adrian has found the respectable layer. That is usually where the real door begins. 1552. He visits Edwin's office building, but does not enter. He watches from a shoeshine stand across the avenue. Edwin leaves at 1607, always alone. Carries no bag. That means documents stay inside or travel separately. At 1611, a young clerk exits with 2 envelopes. At 1614, a sedan picks up one. At 1618, the clerk walks the other to a nearby pharmacy. The pharmacy has a rear telephone booth. Adrian watches him make a call, then return to the office empty-handed. No delivery, a signal. The envelope was camouflage. Interesting. Adrian pays for the shoe shine. Too much. The man remembers the tip, not the face. Generosity can erase detail if used carefully. 1616. Bumpy is told that someone requested corporate filings connected to Edwin. The message comes from a clerk at the records building. The clerk does not know why the request matters. That is why the arrangement works. People are more reliable when they are not given the whole reason. Bumpy asks for the description. White, young, brown coat. Name? Signed as Aaron Mills. Bumpy looks at Vernon. Vernon shakes his head. No such name. Bumpy asks when. 40 minutes ago. Most men would send people running. Running warns the hunted. Bumpy remains seated. Let him look. Vernon studies him. At what? Bumpy closes the report. At what we prepared for men who look. A visible business record is not necessarily a weakness. Sometimes it is bait printed by the state. 1640. Adrian returns to his rented room in Chelsea. 1 bed, 1 desk. No photographs, no letters, no personal objects. A room reveals a man when the man is absent. Adrian leaves nothing to interview. He spreads maps across the desk. Harlem, Midtown, the Bronx. Lines connect offices to restaurants, restaurants to laundries, laundries to bookmakers, bookmakers to delivery points. He does not yet know where the cash ends, but he knows how it breathes. Friday money leaves several small locations. It moves south, then west, then disappears for 90 minutes. No one route carries enough to justify an armed robbery. That is the intelligence of the system. Division reduces temptation, but division creates coordination. Coordination requires messages. Messages require trust. Trust is where Adrian plans to enter. 1705. For 6 days, Adrian does nothing criminal. He buys newspapers, rides buses, waits in cafeterias. He follows no man for more than 2 blocks. Following creates memory. Instead, he builds overlaps. One person observed from 3 places appears to be 3 separate accidents. He learns that a courier named Walter Finch collects sealed envelopes from 3 businesses every Friday. Walter is 41, married, asthmatic, always buys peppermint candies before work, never drinks, always checks his watch when church bells ring. A disciplined man, difficult to frighten, easy to redirect. Fear changes behavior. Procedure preserves it. Adrian does not need Walter to panic. He needs Walter to believe he is still following orders. 1731. Walter Finch has never met Bumpy privately. That matters. Orders come through Edwin's office, usually by telephone, sometimes by sealed note. Walter trusts format more than faces. Adrian discovers this through a minor deception. He telephones Walter's landlord, pretending to confirm employment. The landlord talks too much. Then Adrian calls a pharmacy Walter uses, says he is from a medical office, learns the asthma medication Walter carries. Then he watches Walter enter a church on Wednesday evening, not to pray, to meet his brother. Details, each harmless alone. Together they form leverage. Adrian does not plan to threaten Walter's family. Threats create hatred. Hatred remembers. He plans to use Walter's need to be correct. Some men can be controlled by fear. Better men can be controlled by duty. 1757. At Bumpy's office, Edwin reports the Friday route changes. One collector will leave 12 minutes earlier. Another will use a different staircase. Walter will receive final instructions by telephone. Bumpy listens. Who knows? You, me, Vernon. Anyone else? The clerks know pieces. Bumpy looks at the window. Pieces are enough for a patient man. A complete picture is not necessary when every piece has an edge. He asks Edwin whether anyone has called asking about payroll firms, insurance audits, or municipal records. Edwin thinks. One man called about tax classifications. When? Yesterday. Name? Mr. Mallory. Office? He gave one. Did you call back? Edwin pauses. That pause is the answer. Bumpy turns from the window. Call now. The number belongs to a closed dental practice. A deadline wearing a living name. 1822. Bumpy does not get angry. Anger spends information before it earns interest. He asks Edwin to repeat the conversation exactly. Not what it meant. What was said. Words matter. Order matters more. The caller first asked about corporate categories, then whether Edwin handled payroll, then whether documents traveled by messenger. Too broad to seem dangerous, too carefully arranged to be casual. Bumpy hears the structure. The man was not seeking answers. He was measuring hesitation. A confident response means routine. A delayed response means protection. The caller was testing which subjects created tension. Bumpy almost smiles. This one listens, Vernon asks. Who? Bumpy replies, someone who thinks questions disappear after they are answered. He tells Edwin to keep the route unchanged. Then he changes one thing Edwin does not know. 1846. That evening, Adrian enters a neighborhood bar in Upper Manhattan. Walter Finch sits alone at the end. Adrian does not approach him. He takes a stool near the telephone, orders ginger ale, waits. At 1858, the telephone rings. The bartender answers, calls Walter's name. Walter takes the receiver, listens, says nothing, hangs up, leaves. Adrian watches the door close. The call came from Edwin's office. A simple confirmation for Friday. Adrian learns two things. Walter receives instructions in public places, and Edwin uses a phrase before every assignment. Walter repeated it softly before leaving. Blue receipt. Not a password, a category, but categories create expectation. Expectation makes forged instructions feel familiar. Adrian pays and leaves through the rear. The front belongs to the man being watched. The rear belongs to the man doing it. 1911. Over the next week, Adrian builds a voice, not Edwin's voice. Imitation is fragile. Instead, he creates the voice of someone Edwin would employ. A new assistant, young, precise, slightly impatient. He telephones two businesses connected to the route and asks harmless questions. Invoice dates, closing times, names of clerks. By Friday, the voice exists. Not legally, socially. That is enough. People do not verify a new employee after the third call. Repetition creates employment. He signs correspondence as Julian Cross. No such person works for Edwin, but 5 people now believe he does. Existence does not begin with birth records. It begins when several strangers agree they have already spoken to you. 1937. Bumpy receives reports of the calls. Same voice, same name, Julian Cross. Edwin wants to shut everything down. Bumpy refuses. Why? Because he built the name. So? He expects us to discover it. Edwin looks confused. Bumpy explains nothing. An explanation gives comfort. Comfort dulls attention. The caller is creating a false layer, a name intended to be found. That means the real entry will come somewhere else. Bumpy orders Vernon to watch Walter. Not protect him. Watch him. Protection changes a man's surroundings. Observation preserves them. The difference is important. A trap only works when the bait behaves naturally. Walter must not know. Edwin must not know everything. Even loyal men can ruin strategy by trying to help. 20:02, Friday arrives under low gray clouds. Rain threatens, but does not fall. The city feels paused. Adrian wakes at 5:30, shaves, eats 2 eggs, checks every document once, only once. Repeated checking creates doubt. He wears a dark municipal coat bought from a second-hand shop. No badge, no false gun, no dramatic disguise. He looks like a man carrying unpleasant news. That appearance is universal. At 06:20, he places 3 telephone calls. 1 delays a delivery truck. 1 confirms a non-existent inspection. 1 reserves a private office for 30 minutes. Each call harmless by itself. A good scheme is a machine built from innocent parts. The crime exists only when they move together. 20:28. At 7:10, Walter Finch leaves home. Peppermint candy, gray hat, asthma medicine in left pocket. Adrian is already gone. He does not follow Walter. He goes ahead. The first collection point is a bakery. The second, a furniture store. The third, an import office. Walter receives sealed envelopes. Signs 3 receipts. Everything normal. Normal is essential. At 09:03, Walter enters a pharmacy and uses the rear telephone booth. The telephone rings before he touches it. He answers. Adrian speaks as Julian Cross. Calm, busy, familiar. Blue receipt, route adjustment. Walter checks his watch. Adrian continues before he can ask. Knox wants transfer verification at the municipal annex. Temporary audit. Walter dislikes the change. That is good. Real instructions are often inconvenient. 20:53, Walter asks for confirmation. Adrian expected it. Call the office after the handoff. Not before. He explains that a line is being tested due to suspected tapping. The claim is dangerous, too dramatic, so Adrian buries it under irritation. Walter, I'm reading what I was given. You can argue with Mr. Knox after. Authority often sounds tired. Walter believes tired men. They feel real. He writes the address. Adrian adds one detail only Edwin's office should know. The exact number of envelopes. 3. Walter goes quiet. Knowledge replaces doubt. Adrian hangs up first. The person giving instructions ends the call. The person receiving them remains with the uncertainty. Control is sometimes nothing more than deciding who hears the empty line. 21:17. The municipal annex is real. That is why Adrian chose it. A narrow government building used for tax hearings and licensing reviews. Crowded halls, confused clerks, temporary offices. Nobody knows everyone. Adrian has rented room 214 under the name of a legal consultant. The door carries a typed card, Financial Compliance Review. The phrase means nothing. That gives it weight. Inside sits another man, not a criminal partner, a temporary stenographer hired through an agency. Her name is Mildred Shaw. She believes Adrian is a lawyer. She has been told to record document serial numbers. Nothing more. An innocent witness makes a false office look legitimate. Partners know too much. Employees know only their task. 21:41. Walter arrives at 09:38. Adrian is seated behind a metal desk. Glasses, white shirt, Sleeves rolled. No coat. People trust a man who appears already busy. Mildred types. Carbon paper between forms. Adrian does not introduce himself. Introductions create scrutiny. He points to the chair. Envelopes. Walter remains standing. Mr. Knox said verification only. Adrian looks annoyed. Correct. He opens a ledger. The ledger is fake. The serial numbers are real, collected during weeks of observation. Walter recognizes the format, not the pages. Recognition does not need perfection, only enough familiarity to silence suspicion. Adrian asks Walter to sign beside the root number. Walter hesitates. A second too long. The room becomes smaller. 2206. Adrian does not pressure him. Pressure would reveal importance. Instead, he turns to Mildred. Mark Carrier refused standard verification. Mildred reaches for the typewriter. Walter immediately signs. People will resist a person. They obey records. Adrian takes the 3 envelopes, weighs them, does not open them. Mismatch. Walter stiffens. What mismatch? Seal weight. A meaningless phrase. Adrian points to a printed instruction. Walter reads without understanding. Understanding is unnecessary when the page looks official. Adrian places the envelopes inside a larger evidence pouch, then gives Walter a receipt bearing Edwin's forged office stamp. Return to Knox. He'll have the release by noon. Walter takes the receipt. Still uncertain, but uncertainty has documentation now. Paper is how fear dresses itself for business. 2231. Walter leaves room 214. Vernon watches from the far end of the corridor. Bumpy placed him there. Not close enough to hear, close enough to see. Vernon notices Walter carrying no envelopes. He also notices the typed card on the door. He moves toward the room. A janitor pushes a cart across the hall. Not planned by Adrian, just chance. Chance is the one partner nobody can fire. By the time Vernon reaches room 214, the door is open. Mildred is alone. Adrian has left through an adjoining records room. The evidence pouch inside his coat. No running. Running turns uncertainty into pursuit. He walks down a service staircase, past 2 clerks, past a policeman drinking coffee. The best escape route is one nobody recognizes as escape. 2255. Vernon enters the office. Mildred looks up. Can I help you? Where's the man who was here? Mr. Bell? The wrong name. Vernon registers it. What kind of review is this? Mildred points to the paperwork. She knows nothing. That makes her convincing. Vernon takes the top sheet. Real municipal form. Forged purpose. Rented room. Temporary worker. Every piece legitimate except the reason they were assembled. He asks which way the man went. Mildred gestures toward the records room. Vernon crosses it. Empty shelves. Second door. Service stairs. On the landing, a discarded pair of clear lens glasses rests beside a radiator. Not forgotten. Left. A message. The man knows someone may follow. More than that, he wants them to know he expected it. 2319. Adrian exits the building wearing a maintenance jacket taken from a supply hook. He carries no briefcase. The evidence pouch is inside a folded stack of blank maintenance requests. A city truck blocks the curb. Another accident. Another shield. He crosses the street and enters a crowded cafeteria. In the washroom, he removes the jacket, opens the envelopes. Cash. More than expected. $26,000. He had estimated 18. Large amounts create heat. Unexpected amounts create mistakes. Adrian does not count every bill. He counts the bundles. Seals most of the money inside a plumbing access panel, prepared 2 days earlier. keeps only 1,200. A man caught with a fortune is a thief. A man caught with $1,200 is a man with savings. Scale changes suspicion. 2344. Walter returns to Edwin's office at 10:21, hands over the receipt. Edwin reads it once, then again. He does not recognize the stamp. That is impossible. The stamp is nearly perfect. Nearly is the most dangerous distance in forgery. Walter explains the call. Julian Cross, blue receipt, municipal annex. Every phrase sounds familiar. Together, they sound wrong. Edwin telephones the annex. No financial compliance review exists. He calls the number printed on the receipt. It connects to a legal answering service. A woman says Mr. Bell is in the field. Edwin's face loses color. Walter understands before anyone speaks. Understanding always comes late. That is why it is expensive. 008. Bumpy arrives 11 minutes later. No sirens, no shouting. Vernon places the forged documents on the table. Walter stands near the wall. Edwin remains seated. The room smells of ink and fear. Bumpy examines the receipt, the stamp, the signature, the serial numbers. He does not ask how much first. He asks, "How long was he in the room?" Walter answers, "Maybe 6 minutes." "Did he touch the envelopes before you signed?" "No." "Did he know the number?" "Yes." "Did he know the route phrase?" "Yes." Bumpy looks at Edwin. Edwin shakes his head. No leak, he knows. Bumpy studies the forged signature. The thief did not attack the money. He attacked confidence. That is more serious. Money can be recovered. Confidence changes how men move. 0032. Edwin counts the remaining route funds. Once, twice, then a third time. The amount missing is confirmed. $26,000. Vernon expects an order. Names, cars, doors kicked open. Nothing comes. Bumpy walks to the window. Below, Harlem continues. Children, vendors, traffic. A city does not pause because one man was clever. That is why clever men become careless. They expect the world to notice. Bumpy notices. But admiration is not surrender. He turns back to the table. "Whoever did this watched us for weeks." Vernon nods. "We find him." Bumpy picks up the forged receipt. "No?" Vernon looks surprised. Bumpy's eyes remain on the paper. "We let him believe he got away." 057. Across town, Adrian returns to his room. He burns the maintenance requests, washes the ink from his fingers, cuts the forged stamp into 4 pieces. 1 piece down a drain, 1 into a trash furnace, 1 wrapped inside food waste, 1 kept, not as a trophy, as insurance. He places the $1,200 inside a book. The rest remains hidden. He sits at the desk. No smile, no drink, no celebration. He opens his notebook and writes 1 line. Johnson's system, breached. Then he draws a line through the word breached. Too proud, too final. He replaces it with Johnson's system, entered. A door entered once can be entered again. That is what Adrian believes. He does not know Bumpy Johnson has already decided to leave it open. 6:18. Morning arrives without permission. Rain strikes the windows of Edwin Knox's office. Thin, persistent. The kind of rain that makes every street look guilty. $26,000 are gone. Nobody outside the room knows. That is Bumpy's first decision. No rumors, no punishment, no sudden changes. A frightened organization tightens. A watched organization pretends to relax. Bumpy sits at Edwin's desk with the forged receipt before him. The paper is cheap. The work is not. Correct stamp shape, correct root language, correct serial sequence. The thief studied the system before touching it. Most men steal what they can reach. This one built a hand long enough to reach through walls. Bumpy turns the receipt over. Blank. Good, he says. Vernon waits. What's good? He thinks he left nothing. 6:41. Bumpy asks for every telephone call connected to Edwin's office during the past 6 weeks. Not only suspicious calls, every call. Suspicion narrows the eye too early. The dangerous detail often looks ordinary until it stands beside another ordinary detail. Edwin brings message slips, invoice questions, tax questions, delivery confirmations, wrong numbers. 3 calls from Julian Cross, 2 from a Mr. Mallory, 1 from an attorney named Peter Doyle. Different purposes, different voices, same habit. Each caller asked a second question before the first was fully answered. Bumpy taps the slips. He doesn't collect answers. Edwin studies them. What does he collect? Reactions, a pause, a correction, a name offered too quickly. People think information is what they say. Often, it is how long they take to say it. 7:05. Vernon wants to search the municipal annex. Bumpy refuses. The thief expected that. He rented the room under a false name, hired an innocent stenographer, used public forms, left no partner, no weapon, no face anyone will describe the same way twice. Searching the building will produce dust. Dust looks like work. Work is not progress. Bumpy asks Edwin about the answering service printed on the receipt. Real company, Jersey City, paid in cash. The woman there received instructions by mail. No return address. The envelope was typed. The money order purchased in Brooklyn. Every trail ends at a counter where strangers handle strangers. The thief understands distance, not physical distance, human distance, the number of people between an act and the man responsible for it. The more hands involved, the fewer memories point in one direction. 7:29. Bumpy gives Vernon a new order. Do nothing visible. Vernon does not like it. 26,000 is visible. Only to us. He'll try again. That is the point. Edwin looks up. You want him back? Bumpy folds the receipt once. He didn't steal because he needed 26,000. Then why? To prove he could. Pride is expensive because it always demands a second purchase. A man who steals for hunger disappears. A man who steals for proof returns to admire the lock. Bumpy tells Edwin to keep all routes unchanged. Same hours, same collectors, same businesses. But one false weakness will be added. Not enough to look careless. Enough to look discovered. A good trap is not hidden. It is explained badly. 7:54. Across town, Adrian wakes before his alarm. He has slept 3 hours. He lies still and listens. A door. No police. No voice saying his name. It is only the time before information arrives. He dresses plainly, leaves the room carrying nothing, walks 5 blocks before looking behind him. Obvious followers are for men already meant to know they are followed. Adrian enters a bakery, chooses a seat facing the window and the mirror behind the counter. A street can be watched from 2 directions if glass is willing. He waits. No one enters twice. No one watches too carefully. Still, he does not relax. 8:18. The hidden money remains inside the cafeteria wall. Adrian will not touch it for 10 days. Money is most dangerous immediately after it becomes yours. It carries the shape of the place it left. He keeps only what can be explained. Adrian has seen men arrested because they bought coats too soon, because they tipped too much, because they moved to better rooms. Poverty is not only hardship. He reads the morning papers. No report, no mention of Bumpy Johnson. That absence bothers him. Ordinary victims call police. Criminal victims send men. Powerful victims make the city feel smaller. Unchanged can mean unaware. It can also mean controlled. 8:43. At 8:43, a delivery reaches Edwin's office. Inside the envelope is a notice from a printing company. Carbon receipt books. The address given for delivery is an empty office in the Bronx. It is also arranged. Bumpy paid the printer to remember late. The order is not Adrian's. A trail that appears to have survived by accident. Vernon reads the delivery address. We go now? No. When? When he hears we found it. Vernon frowns. How does he hear? Bumpy looks toward the street. By asking the people he already taught to answer him. Information moves in circles. Bumpy plans to bend the circle. 9:07. Adrian visits the records building under a new name, not to search. He requests a routine corporate filing unrelated to Harlem. The clerk who previously sold information to Bumpy recognizes the posture, not the face. A request too boring to matter. The clerk says nothing, but his right hand stops moving. Adrian notices. He completes the request. Outside, he does not change direction. That would confirm concern. He walks at the same pace. At the corner, he uses the reflection in a bus window. The clerk is speaking into a telephone. Adrian keeps walking. A line has moved. He does not yet know toward whom. 9:32. Bumpy receives the call. Young white man. Asked about a shipping company. Bumpy does not send Vernon. He sends no one Adrian might identify as danger. Instead, a woman from a nearby travel agency leaves for lunch early. She has no connection to Bumpy anyone can prove. She walks behind Adrian for 1 block, then enters a shop. A newspaper vendor watches the next block. A taxi driver watches the third. Only separate eyes sharing one direction. Adrian checks mirrors. He sees no repetition. Surveillance fails when one man follows too long. Bumpy does not follow men. He follows space. The city becomes the watcher. 9:56. Adrian enters a library. He stays 40 minutes, leaves through another door. A florist watches him enter the subway. Each person remembers one fact. Train. No one knows why. By noon, Bumpy knows Adrian traveled downtown, changed trains twice, and entered a boarding house in Chelsea. Not his room number, not yet. Precision too early creates noise. Bumpy tells Vernon to leave the building alone. Vernon looks at him. We have him. No, we have an address. An address is where a man sleeps. Bumpy places the forged receipt beside the message slips. I want where he thinks. A room can be abandoned in 1 minute. A method takes years to replace. 10:21. Adrian returns to his room through the front entrance. That is deliberate. Caution has a silhouette. He enters carrying groceries. The hallway is empty. Inside, everything appears untouched. No disturbed dust. He checks the window latch, then the drawer, then the underside of the desk. Nothing. Adrian knows how to search for a search. The problem is that Bumpy has not searched. Absence again. He sits, takes out the newspaper clipping about the connected impersonation cases. Below it he writes, Harlem, no public response. Then, possible internal containment. A silent victim is not necessarily weak. Sometimes silence is a room being prepared. 10:45, Adrian considers leaving New York, Philadelphia. He knows it. He also knows intelligence is not the only voice inside a man. Another voice asks whether Bumpy understood the operation, whether the breach will become a story told in rooms Adrian will never enter. Adrian hates that he wants it. He closes the notebook. The decision not to leave feels temporary. Most permanent mistakes do. He tells himself he needs only one more day. One day to observe the response. One day to confirm whether the system changed. One day is how pride negotiates with survival. It never asks for a lifetime, only the next morning. 11:09, Bumpy creates a rumor, not in Harlem. A young clerk mentions that a criminal organization found a false stationery order tied to an empty Bronx office. The messenger tells a bartender. The bartender repeats it to a man who has unknowingly spoken with Adrian before. Bronx office. Adrian hears it at 1317 from a waiter who does not know he is delivering bait. The young man's face does not change. The spoon stops above the cup. Bumpy is not there to see it. He does not need to be. The rumor was built for one reaction. If Adrian ignores it, the trail is false. If he checks it, the trail becomes real. 11:33. Adrian leaves the restaurant 20 minutes later. Not immediately. He walks north, enters a department store, changes coat in a fitting room, exits through the basement. He believes caution has returned control. But Bumpy's watchers are not following the coat. They are following purpose. Every route bends toward the same destination. The empty Bronx office waits. One door, one wastebasket containing fragments of forged letterhead. Too much evidence to be accidental, not enough to look planted. Complete answers feel written. Bumpy leaves Adrian room to believe his own intelligence completed the picture. That belief will make him stay longer. She 11:58. At 14:02, Adrian reaches the building. He does not enter. No police cars, no unfamiliar men waiting. He watches the third-floor windows. A door below opens. He enters the lobby. The directory lists a consulting firm in Suite 307. The name matches the printing order. Adrian climbs one flight. Nothing. A woman argues behind a closed door. The hallway smells of fresh paint. Suite 307 stands unlocked. Careless men lock doors after mistakes. Careful men leave them open when they want a visitor. Adrian stands outside. A minute, then two. Curiosity and warning pull in opposite directions. Curiosity is stronger. It usually is. 12:22. Inside, the office appears abandoned. One desk. Telephone disconnected. A receipt from the print shop. Adrian touches nothing. He scans the room. Dust pattern near the window. A clean rectangle where a box recently sat. The wastebasket contains torn stationery. He recognizes the typeface. Someone has imitated him. That changes the room. It is a portrait someone else painted. Adrian hears footsteps in the corridor. He moves behind the door. An elderly building manager enters the neighboring office. Adrian exhales quietly. Then he notices the real message. One torn sheet carries the phrase, "Used at the annex." Not publicly known. Someone studied him back. 12:47 Adrian leaves by the stairs. Fast enough to create distance. Slow enough to preserve appearance. Outside, he turns west. The route becomes complicated. Bumpy's network records the turns. Not because they remain close, because Adrian keeps arriving in places already watched. A fruit seller. Each sees one movement. It only needs to remember where he appears. By evening, Bumpy has Adrian's height, approximate age, preferred neighborhoods, 3 coats, 2 postures, 1 habit. He touches the lower edge of his right sleeve before entering a building. A preparation gesture. Small. Repeated. Identity often hides in movements the face cannot control. 13:11. Vernon places the reports on Bumpy's table. "You were right," Bumpy reads. He checked it. He knows we know. No, Vernon waits. He knows someone knows something. What's the difference? The difference keeps him in New York. Adrian will not leave while he believes he can measure the danger. He will look for the edge of Bumpy's knowledge. He will make calls. Bumpy does not need to catch him in a room. He cannot hide while examining the pursuit. Looking back changes the direction of the body. Bumpy intends to watch the turn. 1336. Adrian abandons the name Julian Cross, burns the remaining stationery, cancels the answering service, moves from Chelsea that night. A furnished room near Riverside Drive. False name, Charles Wynne. He leaves the maps behind. Not in the room. The notebook travels with him. Knowledge can be rebuilt. A private record cannot. At 22:14, he returns to the cafeteria wall. He knows it, but the false office has changed the risk. He enters through the rear corridor. All $24,800. Adrian should feel relief. Instead, he feels watched. Money does not change expression. Rooms do. This room feels informed. 1400. No one stops him. That is deliberate. A dishwasher sees the maintenance coat. A cashier sees the bag. A delivery driver sees Adrian leave. Adrian carries the money to a luggage storage office near Penn Station. He divides it. One train depot, one hotel storage desk. He borrowed the principle from Bumpy's roots. Systems teach the people who attack them. Whether Bumpy expected the lesson or is only now improvising an answer to it, not even Edwin could say. Each storage location is watched after Adrian leaves. Taking it back now would end movement. Bumpy wants the next decision. Where Adrian goes after securing the cash will reveal what money means to him. Escape, comfort, or another plan? 1425. Adrian does not buy a train ticket. He buys paper. That answer reaches Bumpy before midnight. Vernon almost laughs. He's staying. Bumpy says nothing. The theft was not the end. It was an introduction. Adrian wants another operation. Bumpy orders Edwin to create a controlled discrepancy. A legitimate business connected to Harlem will appear to be losing money. $400 every week. The leak will point toward a manager named Russell Haynes. Russell is loyal. He knows he is bait. He will act nervous, not too nervous. Performance is dangerous when the actor understands the audience. Bumpy tells him only one thing. Let the young man think you need help. 1449. The business is a wholesale tobacco distributor, cash-heavy, dirty enough to avoid police. Russell Haynes manages the books. Adrian discovers the discrepancy through a clerk he has previously manipulated. The clerk mentions missing deposits. A manager under pressure. Adrian hears opportunity. A frightened manager can be persuaded to accept a private auditor. A private auditor can enter the books. The books may reveal more of Bumpy's structure. Adrian tells himself this is defensive. He needs to know what Bumpy knows. Useful lies contain enough truth to survive self-examination. He begins studying Russell. Bank visits, telephone calls. No one tells him Russell is also studying whether he is being studied. 1514. For 9 days, Adrian watches the distributor. Russell notices the watchers around him. Not Adrian directly. A young clerk asking questions. A telephone caller pretending to confirm invoices. Russell reports everything to Bumpy. Bumpy changes nothing. Russell must remain imperfect. He forgets receipts, complains loudly, argues with staff, leaves papers exposed. Some of it is real. That helps. Adrian observes a man losing control. A man likely to accept rescue. The bait is not money. It is usefulness. Intelligent men are often caught by the chance to prove they are necessary. Adrian prepares a new identity, not authority, expertise. 1538, he becomes Nathaniel Ward, independent loss consultant, no state office. Nathaniel helps small businesses identify internal theft. He sends Russell a letter naming 3 common accounting weaknesses. 2 exist in Russell's books, because Bumpy placed them there. The third is ordinary enough to sound insightful. Russell does not respond. Adrian sends no second letter. Instead, he arranges to meet Russell accidentally at a bank. Russell notices the company name on the paper. Adrian notices him noticing. 2 days later, Russell telephones the number on the letter. The answering service is new. The woman says Mr. Ward is reviewing a case. Absence again. Credibility by distance. 1603. Their first meeting occurs in a hotel coffee shop, public. Russell arrives late. Adrian arrives earlier, but pretends not to notice. He orders tea. Adrian drinks coffee. Russell describes missing deposits. Bumpy taught him to reveal information badly. Russell changes one date. Adrian believes the confusion. He asks for no money up front. That surprises Russell. I charge after recovery. Confidence is persuasive when payment depends on success. Russell asks what he needs. Access. The word sits between them. Access is always the real price. Cash only tells people how much they paid for it. 1627. Russell pretends to resist. Adrian does not push. He explains that internal theft leaves rhythm. Russell listens. One of Bumpy's people. Adrian never looks at him. The man appears too ordinary. Ordinary is a costume powerful organizations can afford. Adrian finishes with one sentence. Someone is taking small amounts because small amounts teach everyone to doubt themselves. Russell looks at him. That sentence is too close to Adrian's own method. Bumpy hears it later. He understands. The young man does not merely steal money in pieces. He studies the emotional damage of small losses. A large theft creates unity. That is more sophisticated and more dangerous. 1652. Bumpy allows the audit. Adrian enters the distributor's books under supervision. Russell gives him selected ledgers. Adrian works quickly, but never appears rushed. He identifies the planted leak in 2 hours. A warehouse supervisor has been inflating fuel costs. Russell does not know. Neither does Bumpy. Adrian finds it because real fraud has a different texture than staged fraud. Staged numbers are arranged to be discovered. Real theft hides inside boredom. Adrian says nothing immediately. He verifies. Calls a fuel company from a pay telephone. The trap has produced truth. That changes Bumpy's calculation. Useful men are more difficult to discard. 1716. Russell reports Adrian's finding. Bumpy checks it independently. Correct. The supervisor has stolen nearly $9,000. Vernon wants to move against him. Bumpy says, wait. What about the young man? He found what we didn't. Vernon does not like the implication. Bumpy does not protect pride. He asks how Adrian presented the discovery. Russell says he did not. Not yet. He only requested older fuel invoices. Adrian verifies before speaking. Bumpy sees discipline. Discipline can serve power. Bumpy decides the next stage will not test Adrian's skill. It will test his appetite. Skill shows what a man can do. Appetite shows what he will eventually do to you. 1741. Adrian presents the fuel fraud the following morning. No drama. He lays out 5 invoices. Russell asks who is responsible. Adrian names the supervisor. Russell acts shocked. Bumpy did not tell him the result. Russell asks how Adrian knew. The numbers arrive too neatly. Russell does not understand. Adrian explains. mechanical. A liar gets tired, Adrian says. A system doesn't. Russell pays him $600. Real money. Earned money. Adrian takes it. This payment matters more than the stolen $26,000. For the first time, he has been rewarded for revealing theft instead of committing it. A new door opens. Professional. The distinction can be dangerous. 1805. Russell offers more work. Adrian refuses immediately because eagerness lowers value. Russell calls again 2 days later. This time, Adrian accepts. Another business. Again, Bumpy controls the access. Again, some records are false. Again, Adrian identifies the planted problem. But he also finds a real one. A purchasing agent receiving kickbacks. Adrian becomes useful faster than Bumpy planned. Each assignment moves him closer to the organization without naming it. He believes Russell is connected to several Harlem businesses. He does not know how high the connection reaches. That uncertainty excites him. A careful man would recognize danger. A talented man often recognizes opportunity first. Talent is not protection from vanity. Sometimes it is vanity's finest suit. 29 weeks pass. Adrian works under the name Nathaniel Ward. The name gains references. Business owners speak well of him. He recovers losses. His fiction begins producing fact. Police can expose a false identity. It is harder when the false identity performs legitimate work. Detective Creel hears about Ward through an insurance contact. Excellent with fraud. Creel compares the description to earlier reports. Maybe. No victim can identify him. Ward has invoices, clients, an office rented by the month, but it creates paperwork in both directions. Creel begins watching him. Now 2 systems study Adrian. The police want proof. Bumpy wants understanding. Proof closes a case. Understanding opens a man. 1854. Adrian senses the police first. A detective asks one of his clients about credentials. Adrian receives the news through the answering service. He cancels 2 meetings, changes his route. He believes Bumpy's network may be using him. That idea should frighten him. Instead, it flatters him. Being used by powerful men means being seen by powerful men. Adrian begins leaving small signs of competence. A note identifying a duplicate invoice no one asked him to review. A warning about a bank clerk accepting bribes. A suggestion that saves a restaurant owner from a fraudulent supplier. He is performing for an audience he cannot see. Bumpy sees every gesture. 1918. Bumpy reviews Adrian's reports at night. Clear. He separates error from intent. Adrian asks what kind of hand removed it. Bumpy begins testing him with harder cases. A collector whose totals are correct, but whose routes are too long. A bookmaker whose profits rise whenever one clerk is absent. A property manager paying repairs to companies owned by his cousin. Adrian solves 2. The missed one matters. Perfect men are either liars or traps. Adrian is neither. He can be wrong. But he returns to mistakes without defending them. Bumpy respects that. Respect is the hallway before trust. The doors remain locked. 1943. Vernon disagrees. He stole from you. He stole from the root. That's yours. Bumpy looks at him. Vernon corrects himself. Our root. The room goes quiet. Bumpy asks Vernon what he would do. Bring him in. And then, get the money. And then, Vernon does not answer. Bumpy points to Adrian's latest report. He found $34,000 being stolen from us in 6 weeks. That doesn't make him loyal. No. It makes him useful? For now. Vernon shakes his head. A knife is useful too. Bumpy closes the report. A knife only cuts where the hand points. He pauses. This one chooses. That is the risk. 2007. Bumpy decides to reveal one layer. Russell tells Adrian that the businesses share a private investor. The investor wants a meeting. Adrian asks why. Russell says, "Because you keep finding money." Adrian does not ask who the investor is. Inside, he already knows, or believes he knows. Bumpy Johnson. The name has been approaching the room for months without entering it. Adrian feels the old instinct. Take the money. But another thought follows. Bumpy has had weeks to kill him. That means either Bumpy does not know, or knows and wants something. Both possibilities are dangerous. Only one is irresistible. Adrian accepts the meeting. Where? Russell answers. You'll be collected. 2031. The meeting is set for Tuesday, 3 days away. Adrian spends the first day preparing escape routes. He reviews every contact, every telephone number. He decides what can be admitted, what Bumpy can prove. Walter cannot identify the face with certainty. Mildred knew him as Mr. Bell. The office rental used forged references. The money is divided. No physical evidence in his room. Adrian believes he has leverage. Leverage is what intelligent men call danger when they want to remain seated. He writes 3 possible outcomes, then adds a 4th. He crosses it out, not because it is impossible, because writing it reveals too much hope. 2056 Tuesday arrives cold and bright. Adrian wears a dark suit. The face Bumpy meets will still be chosen. At 0900, a sedan stops outside his rented office. Vernon sits in front. Adrian enters the rear. Men who expect weapons search. Men who know weapons are irrelevant do not. The car moves through Midtown, then north. Adrian watches reflections, not streets. He counts turns. 7, then 10, then stops counting. A deliberate route can be remembered. An intentionally confusing one becomes theater. Bumpy does not need Adrian lost, only aware that he is being carried. A prisoner is restrained. A guest chooses not to leave. Adrian's door is unlocked. He never touches it. 2120. The sedan stops behind a closed social hall. Not a restaurant, not an office. Adrian is led through a kitchen, a clock ticking above a service door. Bumpy sits alone at a small table. Visible force protects insecurity. Invisible force assumes obedience. Adrian stops 3 steps away. Bumpy gestures to the chair. Sit. Adrian sits. Bumpy pours coffee into 2 cups. Adrian does not touch his. Bumpy notices. Mr. Ward? Adrian waits. Today. Bumpy almost smiles. Good answer. The clock continues. Neither man speaks for 11 seconds. 11 seconds is long when both men know silence is being measured. 2144 Bumpy places a report on the table. Fuel fraud. Restaurant supplier. You're good, Bumpy says. Adrian answers, You didn't bring me here to compliment me. No. Bumpy places the forged municipal receipt beside the reports. Bumpy watches the timing. Bumpy asks, Do you recognize it? I recognize the kind of work. That wasn't the question. No. A clean denial. Bumpy turns the receipt toward himself. People lie in 2 ways. Adrian waits. They add something. Bumpy taps the page. Or they remove it. What did I remove? Surprise. The word lands softly. Soft is only wrapping for a blade. 2208. Adrian leans back, not defensive. Bumpy continues. You looked at the receipt like a man checking whether someone copied him correctly. Adrian says, You already decided. No. You had me followed. Yes. You built the Bronx office. Yes. You fed me the printing rumor. Yes. Bumpy's honesty is more destabilizing than accusation. Adrian expected concealment. Instead, Bumpy places the machinery on the table piece by piece. Enough. Adrian finally touches the coffee. He does not drink. What do you want? Bumpy looks at him. The truth. About the money? About you. Money is recoverable. A man's design is not. 2232, Adrian gives a name. Adrian Vale. Real? Real enough. Bumpy does not react. Where are you from? Different places. Family? None that matters. Police record? None under that name. Each answer opens nothing. Bumpy shows no reaction either way, so he changes direction. Why 26,000? Adrian pauses. It was there. No, Bumpy's voice remains level. It was divided, guarded, moved through men you had to study for weeks. Adrian says nothing. You could have taken easier money. That wasn't the point. Bumpy nods. Finally. What was? Adrian looks at the forged receipt. To know whether the system could be entered. Could it? Yes. Bumpy lets the answer remain in the room. 2257. Bumpy asks one question. If you're that smart, why work against me instead of for me? Adrian expected threat. He studies Bumpy's face. Adrian replies, because working for someone means they know where to find you. Bumpy nods. Working against me proved the same thing. Silence. Adrian looks toward the service door. Bumpy sees it. No one will stop you from leaving. Adrian does not believe him. Bumpy adds, but the police are watching Nathaniel Ward. Adrian's eyes narrow. Detective Creel. Another piece. Bumpy knows the name. The room becomes smaller again. 2321. Bumpy explains nothing about Creel. He does not need to. Adrian now understands the shape. Leave the room. Return to the false office. Police close in. Possibly lose the hidden money if storage points are watched. Work for Bumpy. It is a corridor with one door brighter than the others. Adrian asks, what happens to the 26,000? Nothing? You don't want it back? It's still mine. Adrian's expression changes. Bumpy continues. You moved it. A statement, not a guess. You divided it across 4 storage locations. Adrian says nothing. Bumpy names none. Specific knowledge can be tested. Unspecified knowledge grows in the imagination. 2346, Adrian asks, how long have you known? Long enough. Since the annex? Before the Bronx office. Then why wait? Bumpy folds his hands. To see what you did after winning. Adrian realizes the work assignments were not only traps, they were evaluation. Every report. Bumpy has been watching the man after the crime, not the crime itself. Adrian feels exposed in a way evidence never created. Bumpy says, you found people stealing from me. You gave me the books. I gave you some. Adrian understands the rest. Bumpy had not found them first. Russell said so, and even Bumpy never claimed otherwise. Whether that gap was an oversight or a door left open on purpose, Adrian still cannot decide. That realization should anger him. Instead, it impresses him, dangerously. 010 Bumpy offers terms. No written contract, no fixed office. Adrian will review selected businesses. He will not meet collectors directly. He will not know full routes. He will not use false government authority in Harlem. He will not touch money without permission. Adrian asks what happens if he refuses. Bumpy answers, you leave. And the police? They continue being police. And your people? They continue being mine. No threat. Bumpy does not need either. Adrian asks for one condition. My work stays mine. Bumpy looks at him. Work belongs to the man who can keep it. Adrian accepts anyway. All right, Bumpy slides the cold coffee away. Start tomorrow. 0:35. The first assignment is small. A nightclub losing cash between the register and the safe. Adrian expects complexity. The manager changes totals after closing. The safe count is correct because the ledger is altered first. Adrian explains the method. Bumpy asks what should happen. Adrian says, "Fire the manager." "Why not the bartenders?" "They follow whoever controls the record." Bumpy asks, "And the money?" "Recover what can be proved. And what can't." Price of learning. Bumpy studies him. Adrian understands systems. For Bumpy, loss is also reputation. The manager is not fired. Then Bumpy removes all four. The business continues. Adrian learns the difference between solving theft and controlling the aftermath. 0:59. The second assignment involves a construction supplier. No money missing. Adrian watches the yard, finds trucks leaving half-loaded after midnight. The foreman sells materials to another contractor, but the contractor is connected to an Italian crew. Removing the foreman may create a larger dispute. Adrian recommends changing delivery schedules and marking inventory secretly. Bumpy agrees. For 2 weeks, the theft continues. Every buyer is recorded. Then Bumpy presents the entire network to the Italian intermediary. The intermediary pays compensation. The foreman disappears from the business. Paper settles what violence would have multiplied. Adrian begins to understand Bumpy's method. Blood makes noise. Documentation chooses who hears it. 124 months begin moving. March becomes April. Adrian keeps the name Nathaniel Ward for legitimate clients. Inside Bumpy's circle, he is Adrian. He earns more money legally than he once stole in most schemes. That fact irritates him. The world pays honesty well only after dishonesty teaches the skill. He reviews betting books, not all of them, never enough to map the whole structure. Bumpy gives him windows. Adrian notices. He also notices that each window faces something Bumpy wants inspected. Still, Adrian's position grows. Men who once ignored him now wait for his conclusions. Influence begins when people delay action until you speak. Adrian enjoys that delay. Too much. 148. Vernon never trusts him. Their conversations remain short. Figures? Clean. Meaning? Either no theft or better theft. Vernon dislikes answers that open more questions. Adrian dislikes men who believe force is clarity. Bumpy places them together intentionally. At a warehouse, Vernon notices a guard lying. Adrian does not. In a ledger, Adrian notices payments repeating every 28 days. Vernon sees nothing. Neither acknowledges the other's contribution. Bumpy does. Teams become useful before they become comfortable. Two men can dislike each other and still arrive at the same truth from opposite streets. Power uses both streets. 2:13. Adrian begins returning small sums to businesses, not stolen money. A duplicated invoice there. At first, the amounts are exact. Then they begin changing. $5 retained as expense. Telephone calls. Bumpy's organization pays him well. The extra amounts are unnecessary. Habit does not begin with need. It begins with permission granted privately. Adrian keeps separate notes, not in the main reports. He tells himself the money compensates for risk. Justifications multiply faster than theft. A dollar taken once is an event. A dollar taken repeatedly becomes philosophy. Adrian has not yet built a scheme, but he has resumed measuring what nobody notices. Quiet amounts. Amounts that teach the hand where the edge is. 2:37. Bumpy notices the first discrepancy. $7. A recovered supplier refund lists 312. The business receives 305. No report. Too small for anger. Bumpy says nothing. The next discrepancy is 11. All connected to Adrian's work. Edwin believes they are expenses. Bumpy asks whether receipts exist. Edwin offers to correct the procedure. Bumpy refuses. Correction warns the hand. Observation teaches the hand's intention. He marks the amounts in a private ledger, not Adrian's name. 7, 11, 4. Together they begin breathing. Bumpy recognizes the rhythm. It is the same rhythm Adrian used before. Not a crime yet. A return. 3:02. Adrian's reputation grows outside Harlem. A bank hires him to examine employee fraud. Detective Creel watches from a distance. Creel cannot reconcile the reports. The possible thief now recovers stolen money. Criminals sometimes hide by becoming useful to law. Adrian knows Creel is still there. He sees the same car twice, the same newspaper folded under one arm, the same man reflected in a bank window. He tells Bumpy. Bumpy asks, "What do you want done?" "Nothing." "Why tell me?" "So you know." Bumpy nods. Adrian wants Bumpy aware of the pressure. Maybe both. Dependence often enters disguised as professional courtesy. 3:26. Creel finally approaches him outside a courthouse. "Mr. Ward?" Adrian turns. "Yes?" "Detective Creel." Badge. Creel asks about prior work with the state insurance department. Adrian smiles politely. "Never worked for them." "Banking commission?" "No." "City legal office?" "No." Answers clean. Creel shows a business card from Adrian's earlier identity. No visible reaction. "Not mine." Creel watches the eyes. Adrian watches Creel's patience. Two professionals measuring time. Creel says, "You look familiar." Adrian replies, "That happens to ordinary faces." "Yours isn't ordinary." "Then perhaps your witnesses would agree on it." A risky line. He knows that. Still, he enjoys it. 3:51. Bumpy hears about the encounter. Not from Adrian. Adrian withheld detail. Why? Fear? Pride? A separate plan? Bumpy asks him directly. "Creel spoke to you." Adrian pauses. "Yes." "What did he ask?" Adrian repeats the conversation. Bumpy asks why he did not report it immediately. "I handled it." Bumpy looks at him. "That wasn't the question." Adrian says, "I didn't want every police question becoming your problem." Bumpy's face remains still. A man working for me doesn't decide what becomes my problem. Adrian hears the boundary. He apologizes without using the word. "It won't happen again." Bumpy nods once. Adrian has revealed pride. Bumpy records it. 4:15. Summer arrives. Heat presses the city flat. Adrian develops new controls for Bumpy's legitimate businesses. Numbered receipts, rotating bank deposits, independent counts, different ink colors by day, simple systems, cheap, effective, losses fall, profits rise. Edwin begins respecting him. Vernon does not. Bumpy listens to both. Distrust can hide accuracy. One evening, Edwin says, "He may be the best mind we've brought in." Bumpy answers, "We didn't bring him in. He agreed. He entered." Adrian still thinks of doors as challenges. Bumpy does not fear ambition. He fears ambition without declared direction. An honest enemy points forward. A concealed appetite moves beneath the floor. 4:40. Adrian receives access to a larger operation, a chain of parking garages. Managers report shortages blamed on attendance. Adrian finds the problem in the ticket machines. Adrian maps it in 4 days. Bumpy asks how to stop it. Adrian proposes replacing ticket rolls and changing machine locks. Then he adds, "Leave one garage unchanged." Bumpy looks at him. Why? To see who tries to continue. The answer mirrors Bumpy's own method. Darken the room. Bumpy approves. The remaining thieves identify themselves within a week. Adrian feels something close to equality. That feeling is intoxicating. He no longer wants only to impress Bumpy. He wants to prove he can anticipate him. Competition begins quietly inside respect. 5:04. The small discrepancies continue. $9. Bumpy notices the pause. A careless thief repeats. A careful thief studies whether repetition has been noticed. The pause is more revealing than the amounts. Adrian is testing detection. Bumpy orders Edwin not to mention minor accounting differences. No new receipt requirements. Bumpy adds another ledger to his private drawer. Business. The totals reach $83. Nothing. Everything. A pattern is not dangerous because of its current size. It is dangerous because it has chosen a direction. Bumpy does not know Adrian's destination yet. The same act can mean 4 different futures. Only patience separates them. 5:29. Adrian begins designing a private system, not yet to steal from Bumpy, a network of small holding accounts, amounts below review thresholds. He calls it flexibility, a way to move money quickly during investigations, a way to protect confidential sources, a way to keep operations from appearing in normal books. He tests the system with legitimate funds. A client pays $200 through a temporary company. The money returns. Then $800. No loss, no suspicion. A clean mechanism. Machines do not choose morality. They only preserve design. Adrian's design can hide money. He begins imagining what else it could hide. Imagination is the first unauthorized withdrawal. 5:53. Bumpy receives a report about one of Adrian's temporary companies. Not because the company failed. A clerk notices invoices from a vendor with no warehouse. Edwin assumes Adrian uses outside research firms. Bumpy asks for the address. Telephone answering service. Adrian is building identities again, not disguises for entry. Bumpy says nothing. He requests copies of every invoice connected to the vendor. But the framework exists. A road before traffic. Bumpy remembers Adrian's notebook line, though he never saw it. A door entered once can be entered again. Men repeat themselves most faithfully when they believe they have evolved. The clothes change. The hunger keeps the same face. 6:18. Vernon wants Adrian removed. Now, Bumpy asks why. He's building something. So are we. For himself. Everyone builds for himself. Vernon leans forward. He's doing it inside your walls. Bumpy looks at him. Our walls. Vernon corrects himself again. Bumpy almost smiles. Removing Adrian now would answer too little. The young man has recovered more money than he has taken. Bumpy understands a hard rule. It is committed by the man everyone argued to keep. He tells Vernon, watch the structure. Not him? He knows how men follow. Bumpy closes the vendor file. Let the money follow itself. 6:42. Edwin creates marked payments, not marked bills. If one appears inside Adrian's private companies, Bumpy will know which document he copied. Adrian receives all 3. He processes 2 normally. The third, confidential review, moves through a temporary vendor, then returns in full. No money missing. But the route is concealed. Why hide a legitimate payment? Adrian may be testing whether the mechanism attracts attention. Bumpy sees the phrase in a secondary account 3 days later. The path has answered. Adrian's system works. Whether Adrian meant it to be found, Bumpy cannot yet say. A test and an accident can wear the same clothes. Neither man speaks. A duel can begin long before either side admits weapons are present. 707. Adrian's next assignment is the largest yet. A real estate partnership losing money through repairs. Perfect terrain for hidden payments. Bumpy gives Adrian broad access. Vernon objects privately. Bumpy says he needs to believe the door opened because he earned it. Didn't he? That's why he'll believe it. Merit is powerful bait. Adrian enters the records, finds inflated plumbing contracts. Some theft belongs to managers, some to a lawyer skimming escrow payments. The total exceeds $60,000. Adrian works nights, eats at his desk. Nathaniel Ward becomes almost real. A real office. The false name has built a life stronger than the man beneath it. That makes leaving harder. 731. Adrian recovers $41,000 within a month. The rest cannot be reached without exposing political connections. Bumpy accepts the limit. Not every dollar is worth the room it brings down. Adrian disagrees. Then they keep what they stole. For now. For now becomes forever. Bumpy looks at him. Only to men who cannot wait. The lawyer behind the escrow scheme believes he escaped. 3 months later, he will need Bumpy's help with another matter. Adrian still thinks in completed operations. Bumpy thinks in future leverage. Adrian sees money left on the table. Bumpy sees a chair reserved. Adrian understands the words, not yet the patience. 756. The private vendor system expands. Small investigative expenses flow through it. Bumpy says nothing against it, whether that is permission or a gap he has not yet noticed. Even Edwin cannot tell. That surprises Adrian. The freedom feels earned. Adrian begins retaining fractions. A $9 difference inside 900, 32 inside 3,000. Nothing anyone will chase. The money goes into a separate reserve under 3 company names. Not yet. For independence. Independence sounds cleaner than escape. It also sounds cleaner than theft. By autumn, the reserve reaches $6,000. Adrian has not decided what it will become. A fund without declared purpose eventually chooses one. It fills intention. Even intention a man refuses to name. 820. Bumpy's private ledger reaches $6,012. He knows nearly every path. Edwin finally sees the pattern. His face hardens. He's doing it again. Bumpy closes the drawer. Yes. After everything, because of everything. Success has not cured Adrian. It has enlarged the room around his habit. Edwin asks whether to confront him. No. Why keep waiting? Bumpy looks at the autumn rain against the window. Because 6,000 isn't his plan. How do you know? He could take 6,000 and leave. He hasn't. Exactly. The reserve is not profit. Bumpy wants the far bank. It is investigation without applause. 845. Adrian receives an invitation to review a private investment operation. No address in writing, no company name. Edwin gives only figures. Cash converted into property payments, loans, and business purchases. For the first time, Adrian sees how multiple parts of Bumpy's organization align. Enough to understand scale. He studies the records, unless the leak is protected. Adrian searches deeper. A set of accounts appears too clean. Returns through legal revenue. The mechanism is elegant. Adrian recognizes something in it. Not to steal directly. To attach his private vendors to legitimate transactions. No hand in a drawer. No missing envelope. Only a fraction removed before anyone calls it whole. 909. Adrian does not act immediately. He designs, calculates, tests on paper, 0.5% across selected transactions. The private reserve could become 50,000 in a year, more later. No dramatic theft, no single moment, no witness able to point at an empty safe. It is better. The annex required performance. This requires trust. Adrian tells himself, Bumpy will never feel the loss. That sentence should stop him. Instead, it comforts him. But Bumpy built power by feeling small wounds first. He notices pennies before others notice doors. Adrian knows this. Knowledge does not always prevent action. Sometimes it turns action into challenge. 9:34. Bumpy gives Adrian one final test before winter, a false opportunity. Adrian is asked to design the controls. He does. His own private companies would fail the system he creates. Bumpy notices the contradiction. Adrian is capable of building protection against himself. That means he understands the wrong clearly. He simply believes he can stand outside rules designed for everyone else. The most dangerous men do not reject order. They believe order proves their superiority by failing to contain them. Bumpy approves the controls, then quietly changes one approval point, a hidden signature, a path only he and Edwin know. If Adrian attempts to insert a fraction, the movement should become visible. Should is not the same as will. 9:58. Adrian reviews the first transfer, $200,000 divided across legal transactions. He sees the opening. He prepares the invoice. Bumpy's question returns. If you're that smart, why work against me instead of for me? Adrian has worked for him, earned money. Still, the old impulse remains. Can the new system be entered? Can he take from Bumpy while standing beside him? The challenge is no longer financial. Adrian signs the invoice under one of his private companies, then places it inside the transfer packet. A small act, a quiet act, a door opening inward. He does not know whether a hand already waits on the other side. 10:23. The invoice reaches Edwin. He sees the hidden signature requirement, checks the vendor, Adrian's structure. Edwin carries the packet to Bumpy. Not enough for police. Bumpy looks at Adrian's signature. Adrian no longer needs another identity to take the money. He trusts his position. Confidence has replaced disguise. Edwin asks, "Now?" Bumpy reads the transfer schedule. "No." Edwin's patience breaks. "What are we waiting for?" Bumpy points to the invoice. "This is a test." Of us? Of himself. Adrian has taken only the first step. Stopping him now would leave him believing he might have succeeded with better timing. Bumpy wants him to complete the thought. 10:47. The payment is approved. $1,000 enters Adrian's private vendor account. Adrian checks the balance the next morning. The money is there. He waits for a reaction. The investment operation continues. Adrian inserts another fee. Approved, or appears to. Adrian begins building a larger structure. Multiple vendors, layered invoices, rotating descriptions, no repeated amounts. The reserve grows. 10,000, 15, 23. Every successful transfer reduces fear. Not through walls, through permission. Bumpy approves every payment personally. He records each one. The organization loses nothing. The transactions are balanced elsewhere. Adrian is not stealing money now. He is purchasing evidence of his own intention. Bumpy sets the price. 11:12. Winter approaches. Adrian becomes indispensable. He prevents a bank from freezing 3 business accounts, finds a lawyer leaking documents, exposes a collector working with police. saves Bumpy more than $200,000. At the same time, his private reserve reaches $31,000. Disloyal in structure, useful every day, preparing to leave one day. It does not always replace loyalty. Sometimes it grows beside it. Bumpy watches both. He begins asking a harder question. Does Adrian intend to disappear? Or does he intend to become independent inside the organization? Escape would cost money. Independence would require leverage. Adrian is gathering both, not for long. Large plans eventually need other people. Other people create sound. 11:36. Adrian contacts a banker named Lawrence Pike. No connection to Bumpy. Adrian presents 3 legitimate companies. He asks about credit lines. Credit creates scale. Lawrence agrees to review the businesses. Adrian wants access to borrowed money secured by revenue flowing through companies tied to Bumpy. If approved, Adrian could control far more than he has skimmed. Nathaniel Ward is no longer only a man. He is becoming an institution. Institutions are harder to chase than thieves. Bumpy learns of the meeting through a bank clerk who recognizes one company name. The Far Bank appears. Adrian may not be building escape money at all. He may be building independent power. Bumpy cannot yet be certain which, or whether it is both, changing week to week. 12:01 Vernon hears the report. He wants his own operation. Bumpy nods. Inside yours. Our own, Vernon says carefully. Bumpy notices the correction. Edwin asks whether Adrian plans to compete. Not yet. How can you know? He still uses our revenue to prove his companies are alive. A parasite needs the body. He will offer Adrian more access. Vernon stares. You reward him? No. You're giving him what he wants. Bumpy looks at the reports. A man hides his destination when the road is narrow. He closes the file. Widen it. More room means more choices. A corridor can conceal direction. An open field cannot. 12:25. Adrian is invited to design financial controls for a new property company. It will hold several valuable buildings. The company is real. Bumpy creates it to test scale. Adrian sees a chance to connect his vendor network to property revenue. Long-term money, stable money. He works for 3 weeks. Then he inserts one company of his own as an outside administrative consultant. The fee is modest, far larger than before. Edwin sees it. Bumpy approves it. The company begins receiving monthly payments. Adrian has crossed from hidden skimming to embedded ownership, but designed to continue automatically. An architect arranges for taking to continue after he leaves the room. Bumpy now knows the full ambition. Almost. 12:50, Adrian meets Lawrence Pike again. The banker approves a preliminary credit facility, secured by company revenue. Revenue connected indirectly to Bumpy's property operation. Adrian signs no final papers. He wants 1 more month of statements. Then Nathaniel Ward's companies will qualify independently. He can leave. For the first time, Adrian has built a future that does not require changing names. A real office, real credit, real money hidden inside false permission. He imagines telling Bumpy nothing, working beside him while owning a separate machine. Not in Adrian's mind. The word makes theft sound natural. Adrian does not see the trap anymore. Success has decorated it like a home. 13:14. Bumpy calls Adrian into Edwin's office. No guards. Adrian sits. Bumpy asks him to explain the administrative fee, not his face. External management. By whom? A firm I use. Own? Adrian waits 1 beat. Yes. The truth arrives late but intact. Bumpy asks why the ownership was not disclosed. Efficiency. That's not a reason. It kept the structure separate. From what? From unnecessary attention. Bumpy looks at him. Mine? Silence. Adrian understands that Bumpy knows more than the invoice. The same instrument Bumpy used at the beginning. The circle has closed. 1339. Adrian chooses partial honesty. He explains the vendor network, the credit plan. Not every company. He frames it as protection, a way to conduct investigations discreetly, a way to move faster than traditional books allow. Bumpy listens without interruption. Adrian knows this. When he finishes, Bumpy asks, "How much?" "Across the companies?" "Yes. About 12,000. A lie. The real reserve exceeds 30. Bumpy nods. Not because he believes him, because the lie answers the final question. Adrian is not ready to declare independence. He still wants to hide scale. That means the larger move has not happened. Bumpy closes the ledger. "Fix the disclosure." Adrian looks surprised. "That's all?" "For now." 1403. Adrian leaves the office unsettled. No punishment. No demand for repayment. Bumpy's calm feels worse than anger. Anger would define the boundary. Calm leaves the boundary invisible. Adrian considers dismantling the network. He spends the night reviewing accounts. He could return everything, walk away with legitimate earnings. He contacts Lawrence Pike, requests final approval of the credit line. He also prepares a transfer from the property company into 3 vendor accounts. The largest move yet. Not enough to destroy Bumpy, enough to establish independence. Adrian plans to complete both transactions on the same day, then decide whether to stay or disappear. Decision postponed becomes plan. 1428. Bumpy believes he knows the timing. Lawrence Pike's clerk reports the credit documents. Edwin reports the pending transfer. Vernon reports that Adrian has visited Penn Station twice. No ticket purchased. Storage checked. The original stolen money remains divided, but untouched. Adrian has kept it all these months. Bumpy believes he understands the full structure now. Vendor network, credit line, pending transfer. One name is still missing from every list Edwin has brought him. Adrian is building a position from which he can leave without becoming poor or hunted. Will he take everything, or only what he believes he earned? A greedy man empties the room. Bumpy wants to know which story Adrian tells himself. Stories govern men more tightly than chains. 1452. The transfer is scheduled for Friday. $48,000. 1 hour before the bank approves Adrian's credit line. If both succeed, Nathaniel Ward's companies will appear strong enough to survive independently. Bumpy approves every preliminary document. Edwin hates it. Vernon says little now. He has learned that resistance will not shorten the game. Bumpy orders both men to behave normally. Adrian must believe success remains possible. Bumpy does not want Adrian running. He wants Adrian choosing. Friday arrives clear. Cold sunlight. Hard shadows. Adrian wakes before dawn. Puts on the same gray suit he wore the morning he first watched the accounting firm. Cycles repeat when men mistake them for progress. 1516. At 800, Adrian visits the bank. Signs the credit documents. At 0837, Adrian telephones Edwin's office. Confirms the property transfer. At 0905, the first vendor account receives $16,000. At 0911, the second receives $15,000. At 0919, the third is delayed. Adrian waits. Or the delay is Bumpy, testing what a blocked man does next. Even Bumpy will not know which explanation is true until Adrian moves. At 0926, Adrian calls the bank using a private authorization code he was never officially given. The bank releases the final 17,000. That call matters more than the money. Adrian has used hidden access deliberately. No longer ambiguity. Choice. 1541. The credit line activates at 0940. 50,000 available. Adrian now controls nearly $100,000 across private accounts. He closes his office early, tells the answering service he will be unavailable, burns 2 old identity files. The identity is too valuable to abandon. He visits the storage locations, collects the original stolen money. The watchers report each movement. Bumpy receives the times. Adrian places the cash inside a black travel case. At Penn Station, he buys a ticket. Departure at 1820, a city of government offices. Vernon asks Bumpy, "Now?" Bumpy checks the station clock. Not yet. 1605. Adrian does not board immediately. He stores the case. Adrian asks to see him. Bumpy is not there. Edwin says he can wait. Adrian stands near the window. Why return? To confess? To negotiate? To prove he can leave on his own terms? At 1702, Bumpy arrives. He enters Edwin's office and closes the door. Adrian remains standing. Bumpy sits. Neither mentions the station. Neither mentions the transfer. Adrian speaks first. "I'm leaving." Bumpy nods. "When?" "Tonight." "Why tell me?" Adrian looks at the ledger. "Because I don't want it said I ran." Bumpy studies him. But Adrian did return. Not enough. Something. 1629. Bumpy asks, "What are you taking?" Adrian answers, "What belongs to me." "Define it." "My companies, my clients, my earnings." "And the transfers?" "Fees." "The original 26,000? Silence. Adrian knew the question would come. He says, "Payment for proving the weakness." Bumpy's face does not move. "You set the price yourself. Nobody else would have paid it. I paid it. You didn't choose to." Bumpy leans back. "No?" The word stops Adrian. Bumpy opens the private ledger. Every vendor, every transfer. Adrian looks at the pages. Bumpy has watched everything. Not after the fact. The entire structure. Every apparent success. 1654. Adrian asks, "Why approve it?" Bumpy closes the ledger. "To see where you stopped." "And?" "You didn't." "I came back." "Yes." "That means something." "It does." Adrian waits. Adrian asks whether the station is surrounded. "No." "The account's frozen?" "No." "The money marked?" "Some." Adrian almost smiles. Bumpy says, "You can still leave." Adrian looks at the door. Freedom becomes suspicious when offered by a man with power to remove it. "What happens if I do?" Bumpy answers, "You find out whether Nathaniel Ward can survive without the businesses that made him real." The credit line depends on revenue. Adrian's institution stands, but its foundation belongs to someone else. 1718. Adrian understands the trap at last. Not a locked account. Not a man at the station. Bumpy never needed to stop the money. He allowed Adrian to build a machine whose legitimacy rested on relationships Bumpy controlled. If Adrian leaves, the contracts end. Credit collapses. Creel returns. But the future Adrian built dies. Bumpy did not trap the thief. He trapped the identity. Adrian says quietly, "You planned this from the first assignment." "No." "When?" "Longer ago than you'd like to hear." Adrian looks at the ledger again. The first honest signal. Small habits are confessions. Bumpy saw the man before the man saw the plan. 1743. The station clock moves toward 1820. Adrian has 37 minutes. Bumpy does not mention time. Adrian asks, "What do you want?" Bumpy answers, "I already told you." "The truth?" "Yes, you have it." "No." Bumpy points toward the travel case not present in the room. "You have money at the station." Then toward the ledger. "You have companies in the banks." Then toward Adrian. "But I still don't know what you were buying." Adrian's voice tightens. "Independence." "From what?" "Everyone. That's not independence." "What is it?" "Fear with an office." Adrian looks away, still calculating, but no longer protected by cleverness alone. 1807. Adrian says, "I spent my whole life entering rooms where men decided I didn't belong." Bumpy waits, no interruption. "I learned that titles open doors, paper opens doors, money opens doors." His voice remains controlled. "But once the door closes, someone else owns the room." Bumpy asks, "So you built your own?" "Yes, with my walls." Adrian looks at him. "With what I earned." "And what you took." Silence. Bumpy does not deny Adrian's value. He denies Adrian's right to price it secretly. That does not make every hidden hand honest. Adrian says, "If I asked, you would have said no." Bumpy replies, "You never asked." That is the deepest accusation yet. 1831. The train departure approaches. Vernon waits outside. Edwin says nothing. Bumpy slides a blank sheet of paper across the desk. "Write every company." Adrian looks at it. "Then what?" "Every account." "And then?" "Every dollar." Adrian does not pick up the pen. "You expect me to surrender everything?" "No." Bumpy's answer surprises him. "I expect you to name it." Ownership begins with declaration. Adrian asks what he may keep. Bumpy says, "That depends on what you admit before the train leaves." There it is. It is a deadline separating two versions of Adrian. One man leaves with money. Another stays with truth. Neither knows the final price. 1855. Adrian takes the pen, writes the first company. The station clock is 8 blocks away. He writes 3 accounts, 2 storage locations, the vendor reserve. Bumpy says nothing. Adrian adds the 48,000 transfer, the credit line, the original 26,000. Every route. One company remains undisclosed, the company attached to the property revenue. Adrian's hand pauses above the page. That company is not just money, it is the future, his proof that he could build something permanent. Bumpy watches the pause. A forced confession measures fear, a voluntary one measures choice. Outside, a car horn sounds. Adrian writes the final name. Slowly. 1920. Bumpy reads the page. Complete. He knows because Edwin's records match it. Adrian has told the truth. The train leaves in minutes. Bumpy folds the sheet. "Go get the case." Adrian looks up. "You're letting me leave?" "I told you no one would stop you." "Then why write this?" "So I know what leaves with you." Adrian stands. Bumpy gives no verdict. Adrian asks, "What happens to the companies?" Bumpy answers, "They continue until I decide otherwise." "And the money?" "Still waiting to learn who owns it." Adrian's jaw tightens. He no longer controls what is hidden. Unnamed things only grow. Adrian turns toward the door. Bumpy speaks once more. "Your train leaves at 1820. Adrian stops. It's 1817. 1944. Adrian walks out. Vernon steps aside. The hallway feels longer than before. Outside, the sedan waits. The driver asks nothing. Adrian enters. Penn Station is close. 3 minutes become 5. At 1820, the train leaves without him. Adrian watches nothing. The driver continues toward the station anyway. At 1831, Adrian retrieves the travel case. The platform is empty. He stands beneath the departure board. Next train south in 2 hours. He could take it. Bumpy did not stop him. Or something Adrian refuses to name. He carries the case outside, the same kind that fell the morning after the first theft. Cycles do not repeat. People do. 20:08. Adrian returns to Edwin's office at 20:08. The lights are still on. Bumpy is gone. Edwin sits alone. Adrian places the black case on the desk. Edwin looks at it, then at Adrian. What is this? The 26,000. All of it? Yes. Edwin does not open the case. Why bring it here? Adrian looks toward the empty chair where Bumpy sat. Because it was never the money. Edwin answers, it always becomes the money. Adrian shakes his head. No. He thinks of the annex, the property company, the train. It becomes the proof. Of what? Adrian has no clean answer. He spent months proving he could enter systems. But there is no fate here, only design. 20:33. Edwin telephones Bumpy. Says only, he came back. Bumpy asks, with the case? Yes. The full amount? Looks like it. Bumpy pauses. Do not count it tonight. Edwin is surprised. Why? If it's short, he'll think the missing amount matters. And if it's complete? He'll think returning it settled something. Neither is true. Bumpy tells Edwin to lock it away, then gives one final instruction. Keep every company active. Edwin hesitates. Even his? Especially his. The line goes silent. Bumpy sits alone in the back room of the restaurant. Not complete truth about the man. That part will require one final test. 20:57. Adrian returns to his office. No luggage, no ticket. The credit line still exists. The companies still exist. The property fee remains active. Bumpy has frozen nothing. Adrian removes his coat, sits behind the desk. The answering service has 6 messages. Nathaniel Ward's life continues, as if the train never mattered. Adrian opens a drawer. Inside is the original forged receipt from the municipal annex, the one piece of the stamp he kept. He places both on the desk. Then he takes out a blank ledger. He pauses, adds another line. Amounts still owed. To whom? He does not write. The question has become larger than money. 21:22. Bumpy meets Vernon late that night. Vernon asks whether Adrian stays. For now. You trust him? No. Then why keep him? Bumpy looks toward the closed street. Because he returned the first money. That proves something? Yes. What? He wants to believe there is a line he won't cross. Vernon thinks about it. Is there? Bumpy does not answer immediately. Adrian returned 26,000. Missed the train. One act does not erase another. Contradiction is not innocence. It is only complexity. Bumpy says, we'll find out. How? Bumpy folds Adrian's confession and places it inside his coat. Give him something money can't explain. 21:46. The next morning, Adrian receives a new assignment. No ledger, no bank account. Evidence points one way. If Adrian is wrong, an innocent man may disappear. If he is right, the organization survives a serious breach. The assignment cannot enrich him, cannot strengthen his companies. It offers only responsibility. Adrian reads the file. Meeting locations. A single police report. No proof complete enough to trust. He understands what Bumpy is testing, not whether Adrian can find the truth, whether he can handle truth when no money measures the result. Adrian closes the file. For the first time, his intelligence feels heavy, different when they cost a man. He begins anyway. 22:11. For 2 weeks, Adrian follows the evidence, quietly. He finds contradictions. The accused man appears to have met police twice. But one meeting occurred while he was documented elsewhere. A copied signature, a telephone record altered after filing. Someone is framing him. The real informant is closer to Bumpy, a respected supervisor with access to route changes. Adrian confirms it 3 times. He knows what the report will cause. Bumpy notices the delay, does not pressure him. At last, Adrian presents the evidence. Bumpy asks, "Certain?" "No." Adrian continues, "Certain enough to keep watching, not certain enough to destroy him." Bumpy nods, not because it is cautious, because it respects consequence. 22:35. The supervisor is watched. 3 days later, he meets a detective. The evidence becomes complete. Bumpy removes him from the organization. No public spectacle, no rumor. The falsely accused man remains. He never learns how close the danger came. Adrian receives no bonus. He does not ask. That matters. The private companies continue operating. The fees remain. But the hidden percentages stop. For 1 month, then 2. Bumpy's ledger shows no new discrepancy. Edwin believes Adrian changed. Vernon remains unconvinced. Bumpy believes neither conclusion. Behavior can change. So can strategy. A pause may mean discipline or preparation. The difference appears only under pressure. Winter deepens. Adrian works. Bumpy watches. The relationship settles into something almost resembling trust. Almost is a dangerous word. It invites people to complete it with imagination. Trust does not become real because everyone is tired of suspicion. 22:59. Then a bank messenger arrives with a sealed notice. One of Adrian's companies has requested liquidation of its accounts. All funds, immediate transfer, destination outside New York. The request bears Adrian's signature. Perfect. The timing is precise. The amount is larger than anything Adrian admitted. $64,000. Edwin carries the notice to Bumpy. Vernon is already in the room. Neither speaks. Bumpy studies the signature, then the date, then the destination. Adrian is across town working on another assignment, or appears to be. The liquidation request could mean he planned another escape. It could mean someone copied his method. It could mean the final company he disclosed was not the final company at all. Bumpy turns the paper over. On the back, one line has been typed, "You taught him to enter. Now watch him leave." 23:24. For the first time, Bumpy does not know whether the move belongs to Adrian. That is the danger. A man who lives by false identities leaves his enemies a weapon. Anyone can imitate the method. Anyone can sign the name. Anyone can turn old suspicion into new evidence. Vernon says, "He lied." Edwin says, "Maybe." Bumpy says nothing. The transfer is scheduled for the next morning. The bank will release the funds unless stopped. Stopping it warns whoever arranged it. Allowing it risks losing the money and perhaps Adrian. Bumpy folds the notice. The room becomes silent, not empty, commanded. Outside, Harlem continues moving through the cold. Cars, footsteps, cash, information. Somewhere, Adrian is still working, or preparing to disappear, or being framed by someone who has studied him as carefully as he once studied Bumpy. The final game has begun, and this time, neither man knows who placed the first piece. 7:12. New York looks ordinary. That is its greatest disguise. Buses arrive, banks open. Men hurry because clocks tell them to. Only a few understand that time has nothing to do with clocks. Time belongs to decisions. Adrian leaves his office carrying a black leather case. No hesitation, no rushed movements. Months of preparation have become one morning. 3 companies, several bank accounts, a growing credit line, cash divided across the city, enough to disappear forever. He buys a train ticket to Washington. Departure, 1820. A new city, a new name, a new beginning, or so he believes. People think escape begins with distance. It begins with certainty, and certainty is usually the first thing clever men lose. 8:03, Harlem moves as if nothing happened. Collections continue. Businesses open. Restaurants serve breakfast. Edwin Knox studies reports. Vernon waits for orders. None come. He finally breaks the silence. We let him walk? Bumpy folds another ledger shut. No. We know everything. No. We know enough. Bumpy looks toward the rain-streaked window. Enough is dangerous. Vernon waits. I don't want to know what he stole. I want to know what he believes belongs to him. There is a difference. The first creates thieves. The second creates betrayals. Vernon turns the liquidation notice over. This line, on the back. Who wrote it? Bumpy glances at it once. He did. You're sure? A stranger threatens. A student performs for the teacher. Vernon sets the paper down. 8:56. Adrian visits the first bank. The transfer clears. Second bank. Approved. Third. Approved. Everything works. No frozen accounts. No police. No nervous tellers. His companies remain untouched. His credit line is active. His private reserve continues growing. The silence unsettles him. Too easy. Success repeated often enough begins sounding like a warning. He tells himself Bumpy never discovered the full structure. He wants to believe it. Belief is cheaper than proof. 9:41. At noon, Russell Haynes telephones. Mr. Johnson would like to see you. No urgency, no threat, just a meeting. Adrian almost refuses. Instead, he asks, when? Now. The line goes dead. He looks at the train ticket, then at the leather case, then back toward Harlem. Running answers one question, returning answers another. He chooses Harlem. Not because it is safe, because unfinished games become louder with distance. 10:28. The same social hall, the same kitchen, the same small table. Only 2 cups of coffee. Bumpy sits alone. No guards, no weapons, no raised voices. Power rarely needs witnesses. Adrian sits. Neither speaks immediately. Silence here is not the absence of sound. It is a command. Finally, Adrian says, You knew. Bumpy stirs his coffee. I knew enough. When? The day $7 disappeared. Adrian blinks. Not 26,000. 7. The smallest theft. The smallest lie. The smallest habit. The beginning. 11:17. I thought you'd notice the money. I noticed the man. Bumpy's voice never rises. 26,000 disappears once. He looks directly at Adrian. $7 never disappear by accident. The room becomes still. Adrian says nothing. Bumpy continues. A desperate man steals a fortune. A disciplined thief measures trust. You weren't taking money. You were measuring whether anyone was watching. A pause. I was. Adrian finally admits it. No performance, no denial, just truth. Bumpy nods. The first theft tested my system. The second tested my attention. The third tested my patience. And every theft after that. He slides a small notebook across the table. Tested your character. 12:04. Adrian opens it. Dates, amounts, $7, 11, 4, 32, 45, 1,000, 1,500. Every hidden deduction, every private company, every false vendor, every quiet transfer. Nothing missing, nothing forgotten, only recorded. Adrian slowly closes the notebook. You let it happen. Yes. Why? Bumpy answers without hesitation. Because money wasn't the question. You were. 1249. You could have stopped me. I could. You could have exposed me. I could. You could have killed me. I could. Another silence. So why didn't you? Bumpy leans back. I wanted to know whether a smart man eventually becomes an honest one, or simply a smarter thief. The sentence hangs in the room, heavy, impossible to answer quickly. Adrian looks away. For months he believed he was building freedom. Now he understands. He was building evidence. Every successful move convinced only one person, himself. 1334. Adrian reaches into his briefcase, not for a weapon, for documents, company papers, account numbers, transfer authorizations, the train ticket. He places everything on the table. I was going to leave tonight. I know. You knew about the ticket? I knew about yesterday. Adrian almost smiles. You always answer like that. No. I answer only after you're ready to hear it. Another pause. I built those companies. You did. I earned most of that money. You did. I also stole some. Yes. The first honest accounting, not of dollars, of choices. At 1418, Bumpy studies him. What did you want? Independence. From whom? Adrian thinks. The answer changes while he searches for it. Everyone. Bumpy slowly shakes his head. No. You wanted to stand in every room without owing anyone. Adrian says nothing. Bumpy continues. But every room is built by someone. You entered mine. You built your own. And then, he taps the notebook, you began taking pieces of mine to strengthen yours. The difference finally becomes clear. Adrian never wanted wealth. He wanted certainty, control, a place nobody could remove him from. The irony is simple. He tried to build it using another man's foundation. 1506. Bumpy pushes the train ticket back toward Adrian. You can still leave. Adrian looks surprised. No one will stop me? No. My companies? They're yours. The money? If you believe it is. Adrian studies the older man. Is this mercy? Bumpy smiles faintly. No. What is it? A lesson. Adrian waits. You spent your whole life proving you could enter every room. Another pause. But you never learned how to stay inside one. 1549. Adrian lowers his eyes. For the first time since arriving in New York, he feels tired, not frightened, not defeated, simply tired. He realizes something. Every identity he ever created ended the same way. He always prepared the exit before building the future. He trusted escape more than belonging. He asks quietly, "What would you have done?" Bumpy answers immediately, "I would have asked." The room falls silent again. One sentence. Sharper than any accusation. Adrian never asked. He calculated, manipulated, measured, built, stole, but he never trusted another man enough to ask. 1637. He tears the train ticket in half, then the second half, then again. The pieces fall onto the table. I won't be leaving, Bumpy nods. I know. You knew that too? No. This, he looks at the torn paper, was your first decision today. Not forced, not purchased, not manipulated, chosen. That matters. People change only when they make one expensive decision no one demanded from them. Money returned under pressure proves little. Opportunity abandoned voluntarily proves more. At 1721. Outside, Harlem continues breathing. Cars, voices, cash, rain. Nothing about the city announces that two men have just finished a battle lasting almost a year. No newspaper will print it, no court will record it. Some victories leave no headline, only consequences. Vernon watches Adrian leave the building. No handcuffs, no escort. He looks at Bumpy. That's it? Bumpy folds the notebook and slips it inside his coat. No. What then? Now we find out whether today was the end or simply the first honest day of his life. 1800, Adrian walks alone through Harlem. The leather case feels lighter, not because it weighs less, because it no longer carries a destination. He passes the same diner where months earlier he watched strangers through the window. The same streets, the same city, different man, perhaps. He stops, looks back once, then continues forward, not toward a train station, not toward a bank, toward his office, toward work, toward consequences. Time isn't numbers, it's alignment. And for the first time in years, Adrian walks without planning an escape.